Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Mike McGrath has been immersed in the world of buying and procurement for his entire career. However, as the world stopped turning during the COVID-19 pandemic, Mike developed an idea for a platform which would connect supermarket buyers with new suppliers in a matter of minutes. A few years later, Kwayga is now working with all of the leading supermarket buyers in Ireland and over 1,000 food producers nationwide. Mike joins us now to discuss the business and their plans to scale in the UK market. But Mike, by way of context, start by providing us with an insight into your career prior to establishing Kwayga.
Good morning, Karl. My background is in sourcing and procurement. So over the last 15 years, I've been in different roles for myself and different variations as well, all in the area of sourcing and procurement. And that's the concept of helping buyers, big and large, find new supply chain partners, find new suppliers. I started in this area during the last recession, actually, we'll say just in around 2009, 2010, looking at helping companies reduce costs. Thankfully, today, that's still of interest. People are still looking to save money. So that's the space I'd be in. We developed a sourcing technology called Supply.e back then, which was very early stage, and it didn't have the smart technology or the AI that we're using now. And things were being more efficient then, but not as fast as what we're doing now. So most of the work I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years has been in the area of Brexit. So looking at supply chain risks, looking at supply chain issues because of dependency on the UK. And that's with buyers throughout the island of Ireland, including large food producers and supermarket buyers. So that was my background. And then during COVID, I got a bit of time back. I wasn't traveling as much and just took a step back from the business and got out the whiteboard and see how we do things smarter with technology. And Kwayga was the result.
So what solution is Kwayga providing to supermarket buyers?
What we do is we have the fastest supplier sourcing engine for grocery. So in terms of buyers looking for new food and drinks producers, looking for emerging food and drinks producers, we can source suppliers in minutes, whereas before it was taking them months to do this. So we can get a product spec, we can get a profile on a supplier, and we've built up a large, huge database of food producers across the continent. So we can identify cheap, we can identify good quality, we can high certified producers at a click of a button. And that allows buyers to make decisions quicker. These people are busy, they're dealing with lots of products and suppliers and categories and pressures internally on shelf to get product on shelf. So we give them a short list of suitable producers quicker than anywhere else. And it's the time saving initially that they get the benefit from, but also because we're introducing more suppliers, they're generating savings, they're generating competition. We've seen huge cost decreases in the last 6 months due to energy reductions, labour costs, raw materials reducing across the continent. And that's coming through now, and customers will now see that on shelf in the next number of months too.
I suppose we'd have the perception, Mike, that suppliers are the ones that are approaching supermarket buyers to have their own products stocked by them. But are you saying that there's far more happens on the buyer side in terms of them searching for new products as well?
There is, absolutely. I suppose in terms of the power relationship, the buyers do hold the power here in a lot of situations, and they dictate, and they have category advisors, and they're watching each other. They're very competitive as well. They're looking at what's happening in their competitor stores, what products are working and what not working, what price points they're at. So they're observing each other. They know where there's potential opportunities on their own shelves. They're looking for gaps. They're looking for products that can give them a strong margin. A lot of those products are actually private label, and we've seen a huge growth in that, and that's continuing, where there's own label and private label products emerging on shelves. So that's one thing for food producers to be cognizant of. It's one thing introducing your product and your brand, but if you can provide it in an own label or private label solution, that's a growing market in Ireland. So that's something to consider. So buyers do often take the first step. They set an RFI, a request for information out to the market, and that's how they fulfill their pipeline.
So from a practical perspective then, talk to us about how Kwayga works, both from the perspective of the buyer and the supplier.
So Kwayga is an online platform, and buyers and suppliers can both join it for free and have a look around and see what the functionality is. We work closely then with our buyers more so than the suppliers initially. So we work with them in terms of outlining a specification. We hold their hand in terms of identifying the criteria and outlining the specification, the volumes that they need from the market. Suppliers are then contacted through technology, through our social media, through email, through engagements that we have, and they can see the opportunities and they can express interest on those that they're interested in. From a commercial perspective, it's all based on the transaction or the subscription online. We don't charge any commissions or agency fees or distribution fees or anything like that. It's all just based on the monthly subscription that buyers and suppliers pay, and that's on the homepage of Kwayga.com.
If we focus on the Irish market for a second, how many of the major supermarkets have you got on board, and then how many suppliers have also listed?
Great question, yeah. I'm glad to say we're working with all the supermarket stores in Ireland at this stage, and we're delighted with that. And over the course of the last 2 years, we've built up relationships with all the buyers across every supermarket store, and that gives us a great insight of what's happening in the supermarket stores in Ireland. From a supply side, I'd imagine we've probably 1,000, maybe 1,100 good producers on the platform who are engaging now with supermarket opportunities too. So not every producer on the island of Ireland is going to deal with supermarkets. There's other opportunities through HoReCa, hotels, restaurants, food service, there's local markets. So not every food producer is going to scale and have the capability and packaging range and product range to be on shelf in a supermarket.
And in terms of the process that's followed, does artificial intelligence play an important role in this?
It does for us in the background. It doesn't impact any of our buyers or suppliers directly themselves in terms of engaging with AI, but we do use AI in the background. We are constantly looking for new products. We're constantly looking for new producers, and we have a web crawler, which is constantly gathering data on emerging trends and products, and that allows us to build up a database faster than ever before. Just as by way of an example, when I started Supply.ie, it was 12 years ago, it took us 3 years to build up a database of 3,000 suppliers. If I wanted 3,000 suppliers by lunchtime on Monday, now I could have it. I could just point our AI and it'll gather all the contact information, the supplier information, the certification standards, and the size of the company. It's amazing now what AI can do and the time saving that's going to gain. And thankfully we're deploying it in a way that's helping our buyers save time and money.
And how did you approach the supermarkets, and how easy was it to get the buyers to buy in?
I think timing was good to us with COVID and lockdowns and doing business online. So we had existing relationships, and that obviously helped as well, I suppose, to get up and running initially. But then with enforced lockdowns and doing business online and setting up Zoom calls and online demos, that helps a lot, and that helps us a lot actually in the UK now, which is our next priority and next focus. But we've got very strong credentials in terms of references and case studies. People can see the results, and thankfully when we're talking to the right buyer at the right time, they know exactly the problem we're solving for them.
And what advice then are you providing to suppliers in terms of how best to present themselves to the buyers?
We do constantly give them feedback, and it's amazing. Like, we're dealing with some very large producers across the continent. I'm amazed every day in terms of, we'll say that maybe the slowness or the lack of urgency when they get a request from a supermarket buyer, just in terms of their profile, how they present and how they produce a brochure and indicative pricing. So we're always giving suppliers feedback to be on top of it, to adhere to what the buyer is looking for in terms of sampling. Some buyers have actually very strict timeframes and schedules to receive samples in. So they'll only receive samples in before 12 o'clock on a Monday, as an example. And a lot of suppliers can't meet that deadline. And that's the first kind of acid test from a buyer to deal with a supplier. Are these guys going to be able to deliver 3 or 4 pallets to 3 or 4 different locations twice weekly for the rest of the next 12 months? So giving them a quick test with a sample to get the product in before 12 o'clock on Monday. If they fail that, unfortunately, they don't move on the process.
In terms of emerging trends within the supermarket buying process, what are you seeing there?
I mentioned earlier about the growth of private label. That's definitely continuing at pace. Ireland and the UK would be even market leaders, I would say, at a benchmark point of view across Europe, and other European countries are catching up. But even in Ireland and the UK perspective, supermarket buyers are continuing to look at private label opportunities. The cost of living crisis is obviously impacting the UK and Ireland as well. So supermarkets are looking to reduce the cost of product and to make sure that people can afford to buy more, obviously, especially on the run into Christmas now too. That's one thing. There's also emerging trends and about healthier products and healthy snacks. a cleaner label product, less chemicals. Sustainable packaging is another core area which we're going to see emerge again and continue to grow, I suppose, more so than emerge. But they're the kind of trends and they're the key points that buyers are looking for when they're having each conversation with a supplier.
And how much of a priority is it for supermarket buyers to source locally?
Some of them, it's their full-time job in terms of sourcing suppliers locally. There's a local buyer in every supermarket, and that's their role. It really depends on the makeup and the mix of what they're doing. It's important to have for the economy. It's important for the jobs. Ireland's a very strong meat, dairy, food producer and drinks as well. So most producers who are capable are given opportunities at the right time with a supermarket, and it's up to them then to fulfill that opportunity over time.
And talk us through the process. So, for instance, let's say a buyer that's on the platform wants to engage with one of your suppliers. Talk us through the process from there in terms of getting a product on the shelf.
Yeah, so the initial conversations will start on Kwayga. They'll get a company brochure. They'll ask for samples. They might ask for some indicative pricing in terms of what the commercials might look like. So that'll give them an idea of what the supplier can offer. There is further testing and sampling of products. There might be a couple of rounds of sampling products. Sometimes if it's a new product entirely, the buyer might even run a focus group or to get some concepts there. So that process can take quite some time, particularly as well if it's private label where the supermarket is actually dictating more in terms of the ownership of the product and the ingredients and the makeup and what that looks like. So the new product development process can take weeks or months. Hopefully then they can settle on the product and decide on packaging. The commercial negotiations will take place. Then there's onboarding around the supplier information. So it can take quite some time. It's not something that happens overnight. There's a lot of due diligence being done. And when a supermarket decides to put a product on shelf, they want to make sure that product sells. They want to make sure that product is there on shelf and it doesn't run out, and the supplier can have replacement product there quickly, and the delivery and distribution logistics is set up in the background. So there's lots of checks and controls done here to make sure that when a product goes on shelf, it sells well, it's replenished quickly, and it's a long-term partnership for everyone.
And you mentioned that your next step really is to gain traction in the British market. How do you plan to achieve that?
So thankfully, we've got funding and support from Enterprise Ireland and the Redesdale Fund from a seed funding perspective. So we're in a position now to recruit and implement our business plan in the UK. There's a couple of things that are happening with us in the UK market now. Like I said, we're working with all the supermarkets in Ireland. Some of those have relationships with their counterparts in the UK, so they've started to make introductions to us there, and that has helped. There's also an ongoing campaign that we would have in terms of our own business development and marketing with UK buyers and attending trade shows in the UK and events. And finally, I suppose the last part of the jigsaw that's coming together for us now is we're actively recruiting for a head of UK sales. So we've a role advertised on LinkedIn at the moment. Thankfully, we've got a lot of interest, in candidates looking for that. And that'll be someone that's focusing on business development for us in the UK as the next market, and we'll be looking further afield after that.
And apart from the scale of the UK market, what other differences will you have to cater for based on the supermarket offerings over there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as I said, we started out with solving problems around Brexit. Now, Brexit is still only starting to hit some sectors in the UK. For the fifth delay, the 1st of January 2024, is actually when full checks and controls will occur on food products going into the UK. So that's going to cause the supply chain disruption. We've seen it already where supermarket buyers in the UK are now looking for more producers on the continent who have the size and the scale to deal with that. So those customs obligations, those logistics requirements that they're going to have, even having a local import partner. So now we're being tasked with finding suppliers already as backups just in case there's issues there. I did mention around the cost of living crisis as well, and having visited the UK market a few times during the year, it is noticeable, and it's noticeable in supermarkets that the cheaper products are selling very quickly, and then for supermarkets they're actually looking to identify further opportunities to have products at that level. The premium products are slow at the moment in the UK market. And
how far afield are your suppliers located in today?
Our database at the moment is almost 100,000 food producers. I'd say 97% of those are in Europe. The other 3% are spattered. We've actually a supplier in Australia, For ingredients, we've suppliers in the States, Asia as well. But most of ours are in Europe. Most of ours will continue to be in Europe for the next 3 years, and that's what supermarket buyers are looking for. They're looking for European producers.
And which categories have the highest listings?
We've actually done a lot in what we call ambient. So biscuits, honey, snacks, products that are actually favourable to logistics and transport across the EU. That's probably where we've had the most focus and most success. That's where there's most opportunities for buyers to on identifying new trends and new brands. So they're the kind of areas. So those ambient products. Emerging is probably, like I mentioned earlier, on the healthier products, some of the free from their growth opportunities. But up until now, ambient would be the category that's most successful.
You mentioned earlier that the business previously obtained seed funding. Are you planning to seek any further external investment in order to grow the business internationally now?
It's something to consider. Yeah, no, we have a technology, venture-backed technology business, and we'll be profitable within 12 months based on our current business plan. So we don't actually need further funding, but it's something that we will look at in the next 6 months in terms of further growth. So if we were looking to replicate what we've done in Ireland, in the UK, across France, Germany, Italy, Spain, etc., obviously getting in funding and hiring the right people and setting up locations there would make sense to us, and that's something we'll be speaking with our current finance partners. Thankfully, one of the benefits of the Redesdale Fund is the opportunity for further subsequent funding, and that will allow us to implement the business plan quicker than our competitors.
And Mike, finally, are you building Kwayga to sell it or to keep it?
I've been working in this place now for 15 years, so it's a career for me, and I'm happy to continue generating value for the stakeholders involved. And it's a great journey. Like I've been doing this work manually and with spreadsheets and emails for long days and long nights. So it's great now to be doing it with smart technology and smart people as well. So I'm happy to continue building the business. The decision to sell will be made by external parties. If there's an offer down the line, we'll look at that stage.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Mike McGrath from Kwayga, and I wish Mike and the team every continued success on their growth journey.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.